Let me spare you a bad British accent and let's just start the show.
This is the worst.
Mota Zitabanakis. Welcome into the Worst Fantasy Show. I am your host with the least, Jack Lucenay, here for you on another Sunday morning for week 5 of NFL football. We have the good old London game starting in a half hour, so we'll probably try and keep this episode on the shorter side. But for any of you that happen to join, please feel free to drop your questions in the comments. We will prioritize them. But otherwise, I'll be looking at questions in the Fantasy Advice Sports.network between their site and the chat. I'll be looking at some questions and answering them, and then again actively checking in on the chats and making sure that we're answering those questions. So without further ado, let's get into the Sunday question block.
Riddle me this, Batman.
So kind of an overarching question to start the day. Report from Adam Schefter, which is really just, he posted on Twitter. And that's what a report is nowadays. 49ers running back Christian McCaffrey will not return for Thursday night's game in Seattle in week 6 when he is eligible to come off injured reserve. That makes sense because it would be a short week. So they wouldn't want to bring him back on the Thursday, even if he is eligible to return, especially since now they know he has Achilles tendonitis in both legs. But there are some reasons for encouragement per league sources. That to me says they're expecting him back this season, but I still think that it is probably going to be week 7, week 8 before we see Christian McCaffrey. And there's a major risk of re-injury. So the overarching question is, what do I do with Jordan Mason? Should I trade Jordan Mason? Yes, but I would still absolutely be trying to trade him at a maximum value. I still foresee Christian McCaffrey missing at least the next 3 to 4 weeks. And there is still a possibility that McCaffrey just doesn't come back for this fantasy season. Like, there's no reason really for the Niners to rush him back during the regular season until down the stretch when they're deciding playoff seeding, especially if they're able to stack some wins ahead of McCaffrey coming back. And if they're locked into their playoff seed, then there's really no point of McCaffrey even playing it down in the regular season and just coming back for the NFL playoffs, which would be irrelevant for your fantasy playoffs. So I still think that I would place it at 50-50 on if he even comes back this season in the regular season, the fantasy regular season. And the soonest I would project it, even if he were to come back, would be, like they just said, week 7 or 8. It's like maybe after the Thursday night week against the Seahawks with that extended time between their next game. Maybe that's the game that he comes back, which would be week 7. But yeah, if I'm trading Jordan Mason, it would have to be a package deal where I'm getting a starting running back, essentially. Like, if I could pivot somehow Jordan Mason into Kyren Williams, sure. Kenneth Walker, sure. Even David Montgomery, sure. I could see those being viable trades where Jordan Mason probably still outscores those guys for the next 2-3 weeks. But then if McCaffrey comes back, obviously that relegates him somewhat. And again, he's been so good that even when McCaffrey comes back, he could still have an ancillary role. What if now when McCaffrey comes back and they want to play it safe, what if they treat it more like Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, where we're actually still seeing a lot of Jordan Mason, enough that he's fantasy relevant? So that is something to consider also. So again, I would be fine trading Jordan Mason, but I'm still treating him very much like an RB2 with upside, and trading, like, I would only trade him for something I view as more than Jordan Mason. Garrett Wilson, do I trust him tomorrow morning or plug in Dontavian Wicks or T. Higgins? Look, I fucking hate T. Higgins. I'm a known T. Higgins hater. I think I would play T. Higgins over Garrett Wilson. There has not been anything I've seen from the Jets to suggest that Garrett Wilson is a good fantasy play. And historically, London games have always been kind of wonky and lower scoring, I feel like. So, I mean, except for having a reason to wake up and watch this early ass game, like, I would much rather have Dontavian Wicks, like, by a decent amount. I think the Rams matchup with Romeo Dobbs confirmed out, Christian Watson out, Luke Musgrave is doubtful. Wicks is a smash play to me. I would much rather have him over Garrett Wilson. So the fact that it's Dontavian Wicks, that's the choice for me. I would literally play Wicks over Wilson and Higgins. Even if I end up being wrong, like sometimes process over results. Garrett Wilson has been very much a menial wide receiver 3. And I understand that he's uber talented, but I'm treating him as such until I actually see it. And I don't think this is a great matchup for him. Again, a tough Vikings defense in London. Like, yeah, I would be... It's like maybe he has a great game, but you're betting on the lower percentage of what I think is potential and possible, right? So just kind of the way a very easy way to break down situations like this that I do in my head is just how likely is this to happen, do I think? And I'll just grade it on a level of 100%. Nothing in my mind is impossible. But if I'm looking at this matchup, like there is a 20 to 30% chance in my mind that Garrett Wilson like hits a reasonable over for fantasy and is like fantasy relevant for this game and finishes a top 10 wide receiver this week. Like the chances are low. They're not 0, but they're like, in my mind, I would put it at like 15 to 20% maybe. Like the fact, again, it's a London game. It's a tough defense. He hasn't done anything all season. Aaron Rodgers still kind of finding himself. Like, yeah, you're wish casting at a certain point. So it's like, if I view that as being 20% likely, and then over here I've got Dontavian Wicks, where it's like his quarterback is back, smash matchup, and also some of the other wide receivers are out, so he's going to probably see more targets. Like he saw 13 targets last week, only caught 5 of them. And if he's a little bit more efficient this week, that would be great. It's Wicks smash play for me. Excuse me, my coffee's running through me. Hey, what's up, Albert? Nice to see you in the chat. Always a pleasure to have you, sir. Here's one. Evan Ingram is fucking up my life. I literally just had to drop him in a league because I don't have any other choices, and it was also I fucked up at the same time. So again, one of the easiest ways to win your leagues and have advantages is honestly just know the settings of each league that you're in. And that seems like an easy thing to say, but I have 26 leagues. It's easy to forget sometimes. So this is the league where I forgot that if the player plays, I can't drop them. I had picked up Cade Otton to flex on Thursday night, thinking Evan Ingram might not play. But then when he was questionable all week, it seemed like he was practicing. It seemed like he was trending towards playing. I didn't actually end up putting Cade Otton in my lineup, and I forgot to drop him before the game ran. So now he's just stuck on my fucking bench. And then now Ingram's trending to he's not going to play. And I'm like, well, motherfucker, I need to pick up a tight end. And so it's like now I had to drop someone on my bench who wasn't Cade Otton, and ended up being DeAndre Hopkins on bye because I'm really deep at wide receiver, and Will Levis has been trash. And I had already picked him up off waivers, to be clear. I did not draft him. Someone else dropped him. I thought I was being smart picking him up, stashing him, but I can't do the stash because I got 4 fucking people on bye dealing with this Evan Ingram injury. Like, I'm losing my mind. And it's like this for everybody in every league. Is injuries and bye weeks are killing people this week. So inevitably I had to drop Evan Ingram and DeAndre Hopkins just to be able to make a fucking tight end pickup, and it's going to be gross. It's not a good one. It's Colby Parkinson. It's going to get me like 5 points, but I can't take the chance in a tight matchup that I end up losing the matchup by 5 points, and especially because also this league has a league median. If I missed the league median by 5 points, now I've lost 2 matchups, not 1. So got to get as many points in as I can, even if it's just that gross 5-point floor on a tight end spot start. But yeah, Evan Ingram with this be out. Fuck, I hate it. Like this horse shit with these fucking NFL teams and the way they report their injuries. Like it's ruining fantasy football. And next year, I don't give a shit. In my leagues, I'm changing the IR rules to make them a lot more flexible. Because again, these NFL teams are out here lying their asses off, putting dudes questionable when they're clearly going to be out, putting them doubtful when they're clearly going to be on fucking IR. Like I'm sick of this shit. So yeah, next year, my IRs and my leagues are going to be fuck. If you have a Q tag, you can go on IR. I don't give a fuck. The only thing I'm not going to accept is bye weeks. Like you deal with bye weeks, but these injuries, I'm telling you, it's horseshit. I shouldn't have to drop Evan Ingram when I know, he knows, the team knows, everybody fucking knows this motherfucker is not going to play, and it's been 5 weeks. Getting upset here. Denzel Barrett, what's up? What's going on? Dontavian Wicks, Jawan Jennings, Amari Cooper, or Garrett Wilson pick 2. I mean, Dontavian Wicks, 100%. That's the smash for me. I understand Jawan Jennings, but I think there's a chance Kittle plays, which I think is surprising. I actually thought he was going to be out. And if he plays, I really don't like that play. If Kittle is out, you can maybe try Jennings. I don't like it much. I would still go with Amari Cooper. It was an absolute I just was upset. Felt like I was coming down. Now I'm all the way back up upset again because you said Amari Cooper, and I'm thinking about that 82-yard touchdown pulled back on an absolute horse shit holding call. Bro, and I just saw a thing on Twitter today, too, of like they find a play. It was LaFleur, the coach for the Packers. They fined LaFleur for getting mad at the refs for fucking up the game because they didn't acknowledge a timeout that he was trying to call. Yo, fuck these refs and fuck the league and fuck Roger Goodell and fuck all of them. I'm sick of this shit. This complete lack of responsibility and accountability is ruining the fucking game. And I don't say that lightly or normally. It's not the kind of shit that I'm like standing on my soapbox for usually. I don't usually try to pay too much mind to things like that. Like I'm a big wrestling fan. I don't give a fuck about ratings. I don't give a shit about how much money the NFL makes. I enjoy the product for what it is. But this shit is getting ridiculous. That changed the entire outcome of the game. I'm not even talking about fantasy. I'm just talking about being a human being on that fucking field, and your team scores an 80-yard touchdown and it gets pulled off the board after on an absolute horseshit call. It completely changes the momentum and the mindset and the outcome of the fucking game. It's bullshit. And it's not even about like the betting and the fucking money that's on it, which is crazy. Like there's millions, probably billions of dollars invested in these outcomes, and that's why people get so upset. But I'm just talking about like as just a fan of watching football. If that was a high school football game, I would be just as fucking mad because it's horse shit. But to answer your question, Amari Cooper still, I'm going back to the well with the Washington matchup. And because I think he's going to be better than Jennings and Wilson, and then Wicks. So Wicks for sure, and then Amari Cooper, and hope that the refs don't pull another fucking long touchdown off the board for him. What's up, Dylan? Need help. Full PPR, different leagues. 2 questions. All right. Start 1 quarterback and 2 flex. We got Kyler Murray, Justin Fields. Oh, that's tough. It sucks, but I think I'm actually just going to go with the matchup and go with Fields, even though there is a good chance Murray could outscore him. It's just the Niners defense is good. It's a division matchup, though, so it can get wonky sometimes. I feel like Kyler knows them a little bit by now. Maybe he can take advantage, but I still think with DeMarcus Lawrence going on IR, their cornerbacks are all beat up. Dallas defense is just beat up right now, and I think Fields is just going to I think he's going to have a better fantasy day because he'll be able to run the ball more than Murray, though I could see Murray having a better passing day. But I do think Fields has the better fantasy day, so I'm going to go with him. And then the other 2, Akers, Waddle, Wicks, and Jennings. I'm not going back to the Cam Akers well. I mean, we've done that now a couple weeks in a row. I'll be fine being wrong if he finally has the good game. He's splitting with Dare Ogumbawale, which I don't think people realize. Like Ogumbawale is a 30-year-old journeyman receiving back who is more there for special teams than anything. And so the fact that that guy is taking away meaningful work from Cam Akers should tell you everything you need to know about Cam Akers at this stage of his career. But yeah, I think I'm going with I really want to say Waddle, but the quarterback play has been so fucking horrendous. The matchup isn't great against the Patriots, even though they've been kind of come and go as far as the defense. It seems like they'll show up one game and then the next game they get laced. But I feel like they get laced by teams that are actually good. You know what I mean? The Seahawks lit them up. The Bills can light them up. Good teams are able to light them up. Bad teams, I feel still struggle. And right now, the Dolphins are a bad team. I think Dontavian Wicks for me is the smash play here. I think Jennings, if Kittle doesn't play, and if Kittle plays, then I'll go to the Jalen Waddle well and just pray and hope that they figure out something in the passing game. So again, if Kittle, just monitor. The problem is it's a 4:00 game too, eh? I think I'm just gonna, because of the reasoning that Kittle I think is potentially gonna play. I think I'm gonna go Waddle and Wicks final answer. And your other one is a little easier for me. Terry, Ayuk, Wicks, Downs, and Sutton start 3. Brandon Ayuk needs to show me something, a sign of life at this point. Bro got paid and hasn't done shit. I think he's still going through his preseason. This might be the breakout game, but I think Scary Terry has a better matchup. Wicks for me is the smash play, and I love Josh Downs. Joe Flacco is going to be playing today. Rich was downgraded to doubtful, which I had expected, and he won't play. So yeah, Joe Flacco makes Downs to me a really solid wide receiver 3. The only argument I could see is maybe Ayuk over Scary Terry, because again, I do expect him to have a good breakout game at some point, and then you'll be able to play him going forward. I just don't know when that's going to be. They might not need him against the Cardinals. And again, if Kittle plays, I think that takes away targets from Ayuk. So I think I'm kind of in the same boat. But I think, yeah, Scary Terry, Wicks, and Downs. I feel confident about those 3. The only one that I'm even a little iffy on would be between Terry and Ayuk. I really like Wicks and Downs to the point that I have them in multiple DFS lineups, like the salary ones where you got to set a lineup according to it's like a $50,000 tier, and then you got to get them all in. So Wicks, Downs, and Trey Tucker are 3 of my favorite plays today because they're cheap, and I think they're going to smash. Cam Akers or Alexander Madison? Oh, Jerry, you're such a nice person. Why does this have to happen to you? Bad things happen to good people. And unfortunately, Jerry Bagshaw is out here asking me about Cam Akers and Alexander Madison. Zamir White is out. I'm going to go with Alexander Madison here in a spot start. I just think they're going to lean on him more. Oh, what if we see that? What's that rookie's name? I was drafting a shit ton of them too in best ball. Oh, Dylan Laube. Maybe we see some Dylan Laube today, and he ends up being a waiver guy next week. But no, I think I would go with Madison. He should get the majority of the touches. Again, this is gross versus gross, but Cam Akers has had the chance to show it to me the last 2 weeks of, can he be a spot start and fantasy relevant? And the answer has been no. And Alexander Madison has shown that I think he's a little bit more involved with his team. So in a match of gross versus gross, I think I'm going to go with Alexander Madison here. Hey, what's going on? Armando Zepeda. What up? Half PPR, Olave, Higgins, or Deontay Johnson? Oh, Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson is a monster right now. This dude's getting 13 to 15 targets a game right now. He's a smash to me. And it doesn't even matter what the matchup is, but the Bears aren't particularly great against wide receivers. They're okay against the run, but they can definitely be had in the back end. Man, Deontay should just eat. He did have a little bit of an injury that he was dealing with. He might be dealing with some nagging stuff, just football stuff, but he's off injury reports from what I saw, so he should be cleared and fine for the game. There's no reason that he shouldn't see another 13 to 15 targets. Olave, I like. It's just the matchup is going to be really rough against the Kansas City Chiefs. They have, I forget the kid's name, but they have one of the better corners in the league and just a really good overall defense. And then T. Higgins is very much hit or miss. I think Deontay Johnson is just an absolute lock right now. And then Kyler Murray or Joe Burrow. That's a hard one. Oh. If it is 6-point passing, I am going with Joe Burrow. In my mind, the only way that the Bengals have a chance of keeping up with the Ravens is if it turns into a shootout, and I'd be banking on that. Chase seeming like he's back. Higgins, if he can get going. They have Yoshi, and they have that other Burton kid. They've got the two running backs, Zach Moss and Brown, out of the backfield. They've got Gesicki and Eric all kind of moving, and even Drew Sample doing some things. So in 6-point passing, I think I would go with Burrow because I'm struggling a lot with that San Francisco matchup. But there's something in my heart and in my gut that tells me that Kyler is going to be okay for fantasy. Like, I don't think he's going to have an absolute floor. I kind of have him projected at like between 15 to 20 fantasy points, but I think Burrow potentially has this week like the chance to hit the 30 mark. So that's kind of where I'm going with it. Is if it's 4-point passing, I might still lean towards Kyler just because of the rushing upside. But even then, I just feel like Burrow, again, the only path for the Bengals this week to win is 3 to 4 Burrow touchdowns because the defense isn't good enough to hold down the Ravens, especially the run defense. So, and it could be garbage time too. So, yeah, I'm going with final answer by not a whole lot. Like, I'm going with Burrow for upside. Richard, what's up? Christian Kirk or Zay Flowers standard? That's Christian Kirk for me. Unfortunately, Mark Andrew Showers have not brought Zay Flowers. Like, I don't know what's going on with Zay Flowers in this passing game, but it just feels like it would be one thing if he was getting like the consistent, what I would call the Wan'Dale Robinson role, right? Like if he had 10 to 12 targets a game and it was like, oh, but he's only catching like 6 for 50 and he's just a PPR monster. But sometimes he catches touchdowns. Like, that'd be one thing. He's not even doing that though. Like that's the problem. He's not doing that. He's getting like 6 targets and catching 3 of them. It's like 3 for 15. And that's irrelevant for fantasy. That's like a wide receiver 30 something. Christian Kirk is a lot more viable, especially because Evan Ingram again is going to be missing, it seems like, this game. So Christian Kirk gets pretty much all of those intermediate targets, and it's a soft pass defense is the Colts this year. I'm targeting them a lot. I think Brian Thomas Jr. was a very popular play in DFS lineups and best ball lineups for the weeklies. I was actually going with Christian Kirk, lower ADP, cheaper option, and I think he could have just as good, if not a better game as Brian Thomas Jr. in this spot. So I love Christian Kirk here. Geno or Sam Darnold? I'm going with Geno, and I'm praying that it doesn't turn into a Kenneth Walker game. That's the only problem with Geno is if Kenneth Walker gets 3 touchdowns, obviously that's going to limit Geno's upside. But London matchup here against the tough Jets defense. I think as great as Sam Darnold has been, it hasn't been like world beater for fantasy. I think that's kind of going a little bit understated. Like his really solid games have been like 250 and 3 touchdowns, like, 250 and 2 touchdowns and 1 interception, like, and maybe a rushing touch. It's like he's averaging like right around 20 fantasy points, which is good. It's consistent. It's been solid, but he's not out here, crushing people with 30, 40 point games. Again, I'm just going with so I think he is still a little bit matchup dependent. Again, the fact that it's a London game and it's against the Jets, a little bit of a revenge factor though. I do get that. I just think Geno has like a better offense, a better handle on the offense with DK, JSN, and Tyler Lockett, and even Noah Fantastic out there. The only problem with Geno is, does Kenneth Walker rush the ball in 3 times? I think the Giants defense is a little bit underrated in terms of, I do think they can bottle up the run and they struggle in the pass. And so I'm hoping that this turns into a Geno, 40 pass attempt, like 2-3 touchdown game. That's kind of my reasoning. So by a very slight margin, I would play Geno. But like, if you really feel in your heart of hearts that it's Sam, like play Sam, because I don't think it's a huge difference, right? Like, I think Geno could end up with 20 and Sam could end up with 18. Like, I'm not seeing this as like one guy's going to get 40 and one guy's going to get 20. Like, I think they're going to finish in about the same range. I think they both have good offenses, good receiving options, but Geno has a slightly better matchup, and so maybe that's why I'm just leaning a little bit towards him. Hey, I appreciate you guys with the questions today. We're super active. I love it. We'll get a couple more questions from the Advice Network. If you guys drop some more in the comments, of course, I'll prioritize those. But we're going to jump out a little bit earlier today so that I can go watch that London game. It starts at 9:30 Eastern Standard for me, so that's in 5 minutes. But I'll miss the first part. That's fine. And I'll go watch 15 minutes. I'll probably miss 5 minutes of game action. All right. T. Higgins, Terry McLaurin, or JSN? Oh, that's a tough one. I actually would go with, this feels like a JSN game. I snuck him into one of my DFS lineups. I still think I would go with Terry McLaurin against the Browns and hope that he's the one that gets the touchdown, though T. Higgins I could see having some upside. Oh, super flex trade. Caleb Williams for Michael Pittman and Jerome Ford. Yes, please. If I have the quarterbacks to be able to take that, and again, when I say the quarterbacks, I don't mean just like, if I have a stud, like if I have one of the top 5 guys, like even though Mahomes hasn't been playing exactly like if I have a Mahomes, a Lamar, a Josh Allen, et cetera, and then like I've been able to just scoop up waiver dudes, like if I have Andy Dalton and I have Joe Flacco, and maybe I got Sam Darnold as my QB2 early in the season or something like that. Maybe I hit on a Baker Mayfield or a Geno in the draft kind of thing. Like if I have a solid quarterback room, love this move. I know Anthony Richardson isn't going to be out long-term right now, but the way this guy plays, he is just so susceptible to injuries. He's basically given himself the same oblique rib injury that Kenneth Walker was dealing with, I think. And if he's just going to keep running in, I said this in the preseason. I said it all offseason. I'll say it over and over again. It's just real life football. You, as a human being, I don't give a shit how big, fast, strong, superhuman you think you are. So are all these NFL linebackers and defensive ends and defensive tackles and even the defensive backs. Like, if you think that you are just going to, and the division that he's in too, like he's against tough defenses. Like the Jaguars haven't played up to par, but they have a tough defense led by Foyzie Oluokun. You are not running face first into Foyzie Oluokun 5 times a game and just coming out of it lickety split clean. Like it ain't going to happen. So this whole thing, this mantra that he had of the offseason of I'm not going to change my game style, and then the coach confirming that I'm not going to make him change his game style, is like, okay, well, then you are not going to last in the NFL because you simply cannot take contact like that on a regular basis as a quarterback. You have to slide. You have to get out of bounds. You have to watch Russell Wilson early game tape and do all the things that he was doing to avoid contact, because Russell Wilson, for all the lamentations of him as a quarterback nowadays, when he was in his heyday, in his prime with the Seahawks, what made him so good was his escapability, his mobility, his ability to make throws on the run, off schedule, those deep moon shots, and also that when he would run, he would always slide and or get out of bounds. And so the longevity of what he was able to do for the Seahawks, like he I think Russell Wilson highly overachieved for the Seahawks for a much longer period than should have been sustainable because of some of the things that he was doing in terms of the running aspect of his game. Choose 2 wide receivers: Josh Downs, Dontavian Wicks. They wrote, Wan'Dale Robinson is the third. So yeah, I'm going with Downs and Wicks there. That's easy for me. Cole Kmet or Tucker Kraft. Ooh, that's I'm going with Tucker Kraft. I like Cole Kmet. I like him a lot better when Keenan Allen is not playing. Because otherwise he's kind of irrelevant. He's going to get like 3 to 5 targets, unfortunately. Unless it just turns into another game where it's like Caleb throws 50 times, but that is not prescriptive or consistent or something that most teams are going to try to do regularly, is throw the ball 50 times a game. So you can't really bank on that kind of thing. Like a solid passing average normally is like 30-ish attempts per game. 50 would be insane. So yeah, I'm not messing around with that. Do I start Josh Downs or Keenan Allen? That's where we're at with Keenan Allen these days. I would start Josh Downs, to be perfectly honest. I know Keenan might be a better overall talent, but in terms of just like the matchup and the fact that I think Flacco's going to pepper Downs and Michael Pittman with targets today, like it's the quarterback situation and it's the offense, and I trust Joe Flacco more than I trust Caleb Williams, which is hilarious to say in the year of 2024. Yeah, all right. So we're already pretty much out of questions here. So hey, we'll cut out early today. Like I said, London football is about to kick off if it hasn't already. So you guys can go enjoy some football. I super appreciate you stopping in. We will be back tomorrow for Hearts and Farts, basically recapping the week that was of NFL Week 5. So wish you guys all the best of luck out there in your fantasy matchups. And until the next time, catch you all on the flip side.
He's running down the middle by the 50. He's at the 30. He's bare-chested and banging his chest. Now he runs the opposite way. He runs at the 50. He runs at the 40. The guy is drunk, but there he goes. The 20. They're chasing him. They're not going to get him. Waving his arms, bare-chested. Somebody stop that man. Here comes